The mullahs didn't pray on time and the water left. The population of a country can endure war, can endure food rations, terrible weather conditions, but there is one thing that the population of any country cannot endure, and that is the lack of water.
Imagine waking up in a city where there is no water, no electricity, and every day is a struggle for survival. This is Iran in 2025, a country where water, energy, and patience are running out.
This is Iran. Accordingly, in 2025, the Islamic State, the leader of the Shiite world, with ayatollahs, whom even Allah consults when he doesn't know what to do.
According to the report of the National Council of Resistance of Iran, there is no electricity, no water, no future in Iran. Today, we will delve into the crisis fueling these massive protests, uncovering the corruption and mismanagement behind it. The crisis in Iran is no longer a prediction, but a reality unfolding in real time. By 2025, the Islamic Republic will face the most serious combination of water shortages and power outages in its modern history. Seasonal problems have turned into year-round emergencies, and for millions of Iranians, daily life has become a struggle for the most basic needs. Iran's water reserves are depleting. Out of 609 underground aquifers, more than 450 are now critically exhausted. Large reservoirs such as Zayande Rud, once the lifeline of central Iran, have turned into cracked plains. The government still insists that drought is to blame, but environmentalists, including those hired by the state, say the truth is much more dangerous. This crisis is man-made, poor management created, and is worsening it.
Everywhere problems are addressed by the state government or officials, they are not solved, but on the contrary, get worse. Everything that the bureaucrat's hand touches falls apart, dries up, disintegrates, and is destroyed. That's why I find the calls of the left so strange. I mean, Democrats, socialists, any collectivists. Yes, let's solve another problem by creating another committee, department, or a couple hundred more bureaucrats. After all, we know from experience, we know very well that the government is not the solution to the problem. The government is, as Ronald Reagan said, part of the problem, a very big part of the problem.
Hydropower, which provides up to 20% of Iran's electricity, fails precisely when the country needs it the most. Prolonged heat waves caused by climate change are pushing temperatures above 45 degrees Celsius. But there is no water left in Iran's dams to turn the turbines. Cities like Avaz, Shiraz, and Isfahan often have power outages, even when temperatures hit 64 degrees. Even Tehran, the capital that the regime has always protected, is facing rolling blackouts. The crisis is so serious that at the end of 2025, Iranian officials quietly admitted what they had avoided for decades. Iran no longer has the water resources to sustain its current population and economic model.
To put it simply, if Iran's politics and economic system don't change, people will start dying by the hundreds of thousands, if not more.
First of all, groundwater is disappearing. Iran has pumped so much water from its aquifers that the land in cities like Tehran, Varamin, Qazvin, and Mashhad, the ground has started to sink in some areas at a catastrophic rate of 30 to 40 centimeters per year. Once the ground sinks, it will never recover. Scientists call this permanent damage to Iran's geological foundation. Secondly, along with this, energy production collapses. When the water dries up, dams stop generating electricity. When electricity drops, water treatment plants, pumps, and desalination systems shut down. It turns into a vicious cycle. No water, no electricity, no electricity, no water. Ordinary people feel this collapse before anyone else. Hospitals struggle to keep their generators running. Factories stop production, and food prices skyrocket because the irrigation canals are empty. Farmers in Khuzestan, Fars, Sistan, and Baluchistan say their crops are turning to dust.
I think their God is punishing them because of the Jews. Usually, nations that tried to destroy the Jews fell apart, were destroyed, and disappeared. Where is ancient Egypt, which tried to destroy the departing Jews? Where are Assyria and Babylon, which conquered Israel and Judea and drove the Jewish people into exile? Where is Antiochus, his Seleucids? Where is Rome, the great Roman Empire that lasted 1,000 years, which destroyed the temple and carried out mass killings of Jews? It doesn't exist anymore. Spain fell after the expulsion of the Jews. What about the Germans with the Holocaust? In Egypt, Iraq, and Syria, after the execution and expulsion of the Jews, there were terrible disasters. Now it's Iran's turn.
To understand why Iran is running out of water and electricity, you need to understand one key truth. Corruption is not just a part of the Iranian system, it is the system itself. The crisis that has engulfed the country is not only due to droughts or climate change, it is the result of decades of theft, lies, and decisions made by officials who are never held accountable for them. For many years, the authorities have blamed external enemies, sanctions, and unusual weather conditions. But inside Iran, environmentalists and former ministry employees have repeated the same warning. The crisis is political, mismanagement is deliberate, and corruption is the root cause. The regime has used Iran's natural resources as a personal automated teller machine, depleting them for profit. Just as corruption has destroyed Iran's water system, the ministry has been linked to the IRGC for decades. Companies tied to the regime built illegal wells, unauthorized dams, and destructive megaprojects, not because Iran needed them, but because influential people were making money from them. Permits to drain aquifers were issued to politically connected landowners, even in regions already on the verge of collapse. As one former hydraulic engineer said, "We're pumping the country to death so that someone can get rich today, and millions will pay the price tomorrow." Dams were built for profit, not for Iran. Iran built more than 600 dams, many of which were unnecessary, harmed the environment, and were pushed forward because IRGC companies profited from construction contracts. There was no oversight, there were kickbacks, and the results were catastrophic. Rivers dried up, wetlands turned into salt flats, aquifers collapsed, and farmers abandoned their homes. As the Iranian hydrologist put it, corruption built dams, corruption destroyed rivers, corruption killed our water. The energy crisis, the same corruption, new victims. Power outages are not just technical failures. Billions intended for the modernization of Iran's aging power system disappeared into private pockets. Hydroelectric plants failed when water sources dried up. Most of Iran still uses outdated systems that can't handle normal loads. And when blackouts happen, the elite remain comfortable. Their neighborhoods rarely lose power. Ordinary people suffer while those responsible go unpunished. Science is being silenced. Iranian scientists have been warning for decades about groundwater depletion, land subsidence, and poor dam management, but the government chose repression instead of reform. Environmentalists were arrested, research was banned, and warnings were dismissed as political. In 2018, several environmentalists were imprisoned on false charges of espionage just for studying Iran's environmental collapse. Many scientists fled the country, and those who stayed faced pressure and censorship. An Iranian scientist put it simply, "It's perfect in Iran. Corruption isn't a leak in the system. Corruption is the system itself."
As I understand it, Barack Huseynovich Obama, and his entire cabinet, they considered Iran to be exemplary Muslims, an exemplary Muslim state, a friend and partner. They chose Iran and its system as a remarkable conductor of American morals and ideology in the Middle East. Or on the contrary, it is quite possible that they chose the United States as a conductor and preacher of Shia morals, a code of laws and obedience to Allah, who is, of course, Akbar, that is, definitely Akbar, meaning great.
External pressure worsened the crisis, and the Trump administration's maximum pressure policy revived and strengthened sanctions, isolating Iran from the global economy. Israel and the United States carried out unprecedented strikes on Iranian infrastructure, targeting nuclear and military facilities. However, even under this pressure, the main blows are internal and environmental. Drought and resource shortages threaten Iran's stability more than an airstrike. Sanctions have restricted access to modern technology for water management and power generation, delaying the modernization of electrical grids and water infrastructure. Dried-up lakes such as Urmia and Hamoon cause powerful dust storms, worsening respiratory diseases. And when rural families flee from their deteriorating livelihoods, slums expand in major cities.
To sum up, if Iran doesn't change its way of governance, its theological mullahs and so on, things will get worse and worse, and part of the population will die of thirst before the system changes. The Islamic Republic, led by the Ayatollahs, is not going to change, at least for now. Yes, the mullahs will never admit that they are the cause of the troubles and problems, rather. The capital, Tehran, is already living under severe water shortages. Water is turned off at night, and, by the way, there is talk of a scenario involving the partial evacuation of the capital. But they will do this when, not if, but when water actually stops coming out of the taps. They know this will happen, they just don't know when yet. In several provinces, people are already facing days in a row without water, and they are forced to buy imported water. So taking a shower is out of the question. The conversation is only about having enough to drink for themselves and their animals, or using untreated, low-quality water. This will prevent death by thirst, but it also causes more diseases, crop loss, and reduced income. Using Somalia, Yemen, and Syria as examples, we can predict that migration will begin and agriculture will collapse. Well, I think there will be a spike in deaths from disease and malnutrition, not just the situation itself. Of course, the city became deserted in a week because the management system in Iran. It won't change. As discussed, the dry climate can't be altered, so it won't work. Well, only if they pray really hard, but they'll still take bribes no matter what, even if it's just banging a fish on the table, or how does it go? I don't remember exactly. Something on the table. And the outside world won't help, apparently. Maybe China will do something there, but that's basically just throwing money into something that will just disappear, get lost, get stolen, and so on. So the only thing Iran has left, and that's the only thing. Basically, the way out of this situation is to bring back the Jews, either just Jews in general or specifically Israelis, and to sign long-term agreements with Israel on joint projects in the fields of irrigation, infrastructure, and energy. And also cyber transformation of this once developed but now broken religious country, where the monarch who cared about his country was replaced by ayatollahs. Who care? Well, only about themselves. They don't care about God. God will take care of himself, but who will take care of them? But the main and only thing, if Iran doesn't want to perish, is to beg the Jews to come back. That's it for now. See you next time.